Very pleased to welcome to the show. Has quite an extensive background. We'll start off. Alex Plechash. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining the show, running for RNC National Committeeman. How you doing this morning?
Very good, and thank you for having me on your show.
So, first off, thank you for your service. Retired fighter pilot in the U.S. Marine Corps. My son, Logan, is going through flight school right now, going through his final training to become a commercial pilot. I know that he will be tickled that I am speaking to you this morning. So thank you so much for your service.
You're welcome.
Talk a little bit about your political background. I know that you're, are you currently serving or were you serving on the Wayzata City Council?
I am in my second term on the Wayzata City Council. It's up this fall, and so I'm likely to run for a third term or possibly as mayor. I'm noodling around that a little bit, but yeah, I'll be ending 8 years here this year.
Talk a little bit about your time leaving the military and then entering into politics. We see this happen quite often, but for those that are unfamiliar with Alex Plechash, give us a bit of your background.
Okay, well, I went to the Naval Academy, and at the end of your 4 years there, you get to choose which direction you'd like to go. The big choice, of course, is whether you want to go Navy or Marine Corps. Marines is always highly sought after, so that's the path I chose. So after 8 years of active duty in the Marine Corps flying fighter planes, I had to make a tough decision because my wife at the time was saying that, she really couldn't tolerate the military lifestyle, particularly with all the people that I knew that were getting killed. So she kind of gave me an ultimatum, either get out or get divorced. So I did what I thought was the right thing, and I resigned and entered the world of business. So it was many years before I actually got involved in politics. I spent time as a corporate executive and investment banker, but along the way I moved here to Minnesota 30 years ago. And then 10 years later, which is 20 years ago, I dipped my toe in the water for politics. I could get into why, but my first caucus was in 2004. I had no idea what a caucus was at that time, but I went for reasons that I don't have time to get into, and I've been in it ever since, at every level, from precinct caucus chairman all the way up to state exec and now the RNC. It's been quite a 20-year ride.
Yeah, it sounds like it has. And I imagine, given your extensive background and time in politics, I mean, this is one of those moments where I'd love to get a bit of your perspective on just how things have changed from your viewpoint. I mean, we know the politics that we're dealing with today. It certainly appears as if things have, gotten a lot more divided than they have in the past. Can you speak a bit to your experience and the differences to when you first arrived into politics and then now currently still serving?
That's an interesting question. I think the divisiveness that I've seen has gotten worse. I would have hoped that it would have gotten better, but it's actually gotten worse. And ironically, it is because of that divisiveness that I got involved in the first place. So if you can tolerate, a minute of background, I think it's interesting as to how I got involved, but it had to do with the divisiveness that I saw. Do I have a minute to get into that?
Absolutely, you do.
Okay, so believe it or not, it starts at an Army-Navy football game party. Used to host them in my house. It got too big. We were having it at a venue near the University of Minnesota, crowded, TVs all around. And after the game had started, in walks a gentleman with a sport coat and a dapper hat. And on his lapel is a big pin that says, Dennis Kucinich for president. He was a congressman from Ohio. He was vying for the Democrat nomination for president at that time. And this gentleman walks up to me. I didn't know him, never met him before, but a Naval Academy graduate, lawyer, grew up in St. Paul. And he started telling me about how great this candidate was, and I just wanted to watch the football game, right? So my daughters rescued me, and ironically, I bumped into him a couple more times, and I got to know him. He got to be a friend. And I was having a conversation with him about this, and I said, Peter, the problem I've got with your party is it seems like all the really vicious, venomous stuff comes from your side. The TV ads, the billboards, the bumper stickers, that sort of thing. And he looked at me, he pondered a bit, and he said, you might be right about that, but it's really only low-class people that behave that way. And I said, okay, fine. Well, fast forward a week or so, and I found myself in Washington, D.C., visiting my daughter, who was going to American University. We had a nice lunch. I had a rental car. Windows were rolled down. Beautiful early spring day. Heading along Embassy Row, Wisconsin Avenue, back to American University's campus. Passing me on the inside lane was a Mercedes SL. It looked like a brand new car. Top was down, and the gentleman driving it was impeccably dressed in a $3,000 or $4,000 suit. And as he passed me, on his bumper was a big bumper sticker that was white with black letters. No other adornment, just black letters. And what did it say? I won't say it, but F. Bush, spelled out. And I thought, okay, that's it. I've had it. I got to get involved. And I thought, well, how do you get involved? Well, you go to a caucus. What the heck is a caucus? Well, I went to my first caucus, got elected chairman, and it's been a ride ever since. Sadly, I think the divisiveness that I was seeing back then, which was in the run-up to Bush's second election, has gotten even worse, and that's really sad to see.
Has it had, have you had pause, moving forward? You have such a, such a background and quite the career in life so far. Has it given you pause about moving forward, or do you still like to be sort of in the middle of the fight, so to speak?
Well, I think it's motivated me even more. I mean, I would like to see our country get rescued and go back to the days of, individual responsibility and personal accountability and traditional America. I see so much craziness happening. It motivates me more. I can't just sit back and let it happen. I've got to be in the fray.
Talking with Alex Plechash, running for RNC National Committeeman. We'll get to that in a moment. I want to deviate over a bit. I know you've traveled to Israel recently with your extensive military background. There's a story this morning. Terrorists were firing on the barge that was being built by the U.S. forces, attempting to bring aid to Gaza. Hamas is vowing to stop the pier. There was kind of an expectation this was going to happen. But given your time in Israel and the war over there, I'm interested to hear your perspective on the conflict so far, and anything that you'd like to share that perhaps is a different perspective based off of your being on the ground in Israel.
Be happy to. First off, the reason I was there is that being on the RNC, we were offered a chance to be part of a small delegation to go. I raised my hand immediately. There were only very few of us that ended up going. And we were treated as a VIP delegation, so we had the privilege of meeting with the very top people in the Knesset, the IDF, Shin Bet, Mossad. I went down to Gaza, saw the devastation there, went up to Lebanon and was literally staring across the valley. So I had a pretty big perspective. I think even though Israel is severely divided politically, kind of like what we're seeing here in our country, when I was there, it seemed like the country had unified behind the single purpose of needing to defeat Hamas. They can't let them continue to operate. They will be eliminated. I will tell you that I believe that Israel, based on what I've seen, is perhaps the most moral country on the planet. They are doing everything possible to mitigate, limit, and get rid of any possible civilian casualties, but Hamas just won't let them do that. They keep people there. They don't let them leave. Israel warns them, we're going to be attacking here. Here's where you can go. They drop leaflets. They broadcast everything they can to get civilians out of the way, but Hamas just won't let them do it because it serves their purpose to see that happen. But Hamas has to be eliminated. What I saw there was unconscionable. I don't know if I have time to get into it, but I have made presentations. In fact, I'm a keynote tonight at one of our congressional district fundraisers to talk about my experience in Israel.
Well, I'd certainly like to invite you back on as this issue continues and hear more of your insight. So I'll be reaching out again. Before we let you go this morning, let's talk a bit about the RNC National Committeeman, that position, and why that position in particular for Alex Plechash.
Well, I'm ending my first term. I was elected in a special election. My predecessor resigned within the first 6 months of his getting elected. I don't know any of the details about that. All I know is that the resignation opened it up, and I had never thought about the RNC. I didn't really know much about it. But when that occurred, a few people contacted me, independent of each other, and said, you should really run for this. And I said, I don't know, let me take a look. Well, I immediately picked up the phone and I called two people that I knew pretty well who had served in that capacity before. Jeff Johnson, who had run for governor and attorney general. I think most people know who he is. He had been the RNC committeeman before. And then I talked to Janet Byhofer, who had been a national committee woman. They both know me pretty well, and they're both very encouraging. So I put my hat in the ring, and I had the privilege of getting elected. So here I am. I'd like to continue the momentum that I built in the first 3.5 years in my second term.
Alex Plechash, again, thank you for your service. Thank you so much for coming on this morning. I'll be reaching out again soon. I'd love to get more insight into what you experienced in your time in Israel and your expertise. Is there any place you would like to send those listening right now if they want to get a little bit more of your background? I know that there's information available about you at mngop.org, but is there any other place online you'd like to send the listener to?
Well, I've got a website that should be live today, I hope. alexplechash.com should get you there, and there'll be much more information that they can get. One parting shot is I'd love to come back on your show, but I'm going to be in another combat zone in June, and that might be interesting, too. I'm actually heading to Ukraine in the middle of June. I'll be there on a Christian mission trip. We will be wearing body armor the whole time because we'll be in a combat zone. Be another experience to come and talk about.
Absolutely. I'm going to mark it on my calendar, make a note of it, and be reaching out to you again really soon. And I appreciate your time this morning. I hope you and your family have a fantastic weekend.
Thanks, John.